Woohoo, we're live! Woohoo! This is Math 40, Elementary Algebra 5.6. We're going to be multiplying polynomials. Woohoo! Okay, so the way we're going to approach multiplication of polynomials is we will work up through monomials, monomial and a binomial, then a couple of binomials, then some longer polynomials. It's going to be a party. So the best part about multiplying monomials is that you've already done it. Now, I made these two monomials look pretty fancy and exciting, but in fact, all you're doing is what we've been doing already, multiplying and then, making sure we connect all the variables that match. So the first thing is to confirm that each of these is a monomial. So in other words, there's a single term here and a single term here. I've got x's, I've got y's, and I've got some t's. Let me get another color. Let's see, orange is what's available. So we've got x's, y's, and t's. And remember, if you've got one term and you're multiplying together, you're allowed to change the order of the factors. We've got something called the commutative property of multiplication that says any of these can be written in any order we like. So what we can do is we can bring the -8 together with the -2. See that -8 there and the -2, bring them together in the beginning. That's going to make our coefficient. And then I've got x cubed, and then just the x. Those are the two yellow ones. And then y squared and y cubed. And then a t over here and a t over here. So let me get my handy dandy, nothing bad can happen to us if we're using highlighters. Oh, these highlighters are looking a little bit wan. I may have overused the highlighters. Okay, well, that's okay. I'm sure we can find more highlighters. So -8 times -2, remember, I don't know if I can do this. There's not enough room. A negative times a negative is positive. Wait, let me do it with pens. A negative times a negative is a positive. Yay, wait. Oh my gosh. Thank goodness I'm not trying to fight off vampires. Okay, let's try it again. A negative times a negative is a positive. Yay! Okay, so -8 times -2 is +16. Now, you got to remember the formula. If I have x cubed times x, there are 3 x's here and 1 x there, so I've got x to the 4th power there. Here I've got y squared, so 2 y's, and then y cubed, 3 more y's, so altogether y to the 5th. I added the 2 and the 3. And then t times t is just t squared. That's it. That's all you have to do. Let's move on. A monomial, a single term, times a binomial, 2t times the quantity 3t minus 5. Well, yeah, we're calling it a monomial times a binomial, but you know it as the distributive property. You've already worked with this. This is 2t times 3t minus 2t times 5. So let's see, this is 6t squared. 2 t's make the t squared, minus 2t times 5, 10t. What do you think about that? Woohoo! So you already know how to do a lot of this. So we're just reviewing it and giving it new names. Okay, same thing here. This is a little bit more exciting. I know there's a lot going on. 3a squared b times the quantity a squared minus b squared. I don't have a lot of room up top, so I'll use the bottom arrows here. 3a squared b times a squared minus 3a squared b times b squared. Now, sometimes rather than like up here, I could have done this in my head. This one, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write out the multiplication first, and then I look and I can group each of the variables. So I've got a 3. I've got a squared and an a squared. So altogether, I've got an a to the 4th and a b, and then a minus 3. And here I just have the a squared, but I have a b times b squared. So altogether I've got 3 b's. So it's b cubed. So far, so good. Woohoo. Not too bad. So now we're going to move on. And I know that some of you have already studied multiplication of polynomials. And so you may know the F word. The F word for multiplication is FOIL, not the other F word. I know, I was being silly. I'm going to talk about how to multiply binomials without the F word. If you already know how to FOIL them, that's fine. Feel free to do it. I'm just going to wait a little bit. We're going to introduce that later. So for right now, the method we're going to follow looks like this. If I have 2 binomials, so I have x plus 1, that's one binomial, times another one, x minus 2, so second binomial, right? Two terms. What I'm going to do, because there are so many things running around, I've got 2 things that I have to multiply times these 2 things. It's a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to break up the first one. I'm going to take the x plus 1 and I'm going to split it up. I'm going to say x is going to multiply the whole second one. And then 1 is going to multiply the whole second one. So I'm breaking it down into 2 pieces. The x minus 2 is the same for each of them. But I split up the first one. So x goes through and then 1 goes through. So it's like taking turns. But then if I've simplified it, instead of making it a binomial times a binomial, I did a monomial times a binomial, which is what we did up there. I'm just doing the distributive property. X times x minus x times 2. So that's the first part. And then the 1 comes through. 1 times x minus 1 times 2. So altogether, I've got x squared minus, what is that one? You got it, 2x plus, it's going to be 1x, which I can write as x minus 2. So I get x squared minus x minus 2. Bam, just like that. Now, as we go through, one thing that's important to mention is if you already know this, and I know a lot of you have already done this before. If you haven't, that's perfectly fine. But if you have done this before, when we get to the end here, what I would like you to be thinking about is when you see x squared minus x minus 2, could you figure out that it would have started here? So in other words, could you go backwards? So when we go forwards, we're multiplying. When we go backwards, it's something called factoring, which we're going to be doing in the next chapter. So the question is, can you anticipate that and start thinking about that? So if this is kind of, like, oh, you've already got this and it's a little bit boring, great. Start thinking about the other direction. Okay, so unfortunately, you guys can't ask me any questions, but you can always pause it and text me. But I'm going to go on ahead. And this would be the point. Now, this is not simple. This is not an easy one. But this would be the point where I would stop the class and I would say, okay, I'm going to put this one on the board. And so I'd like everyone to try it and then see if we get the same thing. So what I'd like to ask you to do is if you're following through, go ahead, pause the video. I don't even have to stop talking. You can pause the video anytime you want. But pause the video, try this problem, come back, start it up again, and see if we get the same answer. Ooh. So go ahead and pause it. I'll wait. I'll be here. I promise. I'm having trouble. I don't have enough room on my desk for all of this. Okay. So if you've paused it and come back, I'm going to follow the same procedure. So I always write out my problem a second time. So I've got a clean version of the problem that I can always refer back to. I'm going to put a box on the one above so I know that finished there. I'm going to split up the y cubed. So I'm going to take the y cubed times the whole second one, 2y squared plus 4. And then I'm going to take the minus 5 times the whole second one, 2y squared plus 4. And some people have asked me, why do we split up the first one? Why not split up the second one? And the answer is you could totally do that too. There's no reason you can't split up the second one. I had to pick one to split up. It's traditional to split up the first one, so that's what I'm doing. But if you hate that and you want to split up the second one, go for it. It will work out both ways. Again, I'm going to use distributive property now. Y cubed goes through. Y cubed times 2y squared plus y cubed times 4. Okay, so that's the first two terms. Minus 5 times 2y squared minus 5 times 4. That's the second two. And I have just a teensy bit of paper, as is my usual pattern. Okay, so now let's try to group things. I've got a y cubed times a 2 times a y squared. So I'm going to pull the 2 out in front. And all together, 3y's, 2y's, 5y's. So I'll have 2y to the 5th. In the next one, I'm going to pull the 4 out in front, 4 times y cubed. Okay, this one is 5 times 2 minus 10y squared. And the last one is minus 20. And as I look through here, none of these are like terms. They all have different numbers of y. See, y to the 5th, y cubed, y squared, and no y. So this is the constant. So this is done. This is finally done. I don't even have enough room to draw a box. So imaginary box around that one. And we did it. Page 1 of multiplication is done. Woohoo, you guys are awesome. And sliding. And I can't find the turning off. What if the video just keeps going? What if I forget to turn it off and it's hours and hours? You guys could sit here. The truth of the matter is, I know this is the weird end. This is my tea, my beautiful tea that's keeping me talking today, which my partner made for me. It's lemon and honey. So we could just sit here and have tea together. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Okay.